Welcome everyone to our webinar today on the essentials of using an IT help desk in SharePoint in 365 or in on-premises, wherever you might be using it. I just got the webinar going here, so I know there's going to be a few more folks popping in. For anyone who is joining at this time, there will be, or joining later, there will be a recording of the session available. So if you need to check out for something, then there is always going to be this recording that you can come back to. Should be fairly short. I really just wanted to introduce a few elements of the help desk that we offer and just focus on some really specific pieces of it. This is going to be a series we continue for the next few weeks. We have 6 sessions on this. There's going to be today and every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific until the end of June. So we are going to be going through some different elements of this. Just kind of give you a quick overview of what the topics are that we're going to cover. We're going to be covering today's topic, which is how to intake tickets into the system, the various ways that that happens. And then we're going to talk about what happens when that ticket comes in. Now you have a process around that. So we're going to talk about that next week. And then we're going to be talking about how it interacts with your mobile device and how you can run your ticketing system or interact with tickets or respond to tickets on the go. There's going to be some self-service essentials we'll talk about regarding knowledge base. We also have a Microsoft Teams integration. You'll see a piece of that today. I won't get into it in great detail, but we will go over that in brief, and we'll get digging into that a little bit later in June, a little bit later in the series. And then we're going to be talking about the Nitro Studio element of the product that runs the tool. Well, again, we're going to touch on a lot of these things. There's going to be a little bit kind of common thread throughout, or obviously we're talking about one product. But look, good, looks like we got a few more folks, so let me go ahead and introduce myself. I am James Restivo with Crow Canyon Software. I have actually been with Crow Canyon for about 10 years now. So it's been about a decade. It's pretty hard to believe, but it's been a fun company to work for, and really proud of the products we're putting out, and really proud of the feedback we get from our customers on the usability and how friendly they are. And so that's what I'm hoping to demonstrate and show for you today on the various ways that the help desk can work for you in your scenario. So without further ado, I'm going to get into some of the specifics of our help desk system and how tickets come into it. So when you're talking about bringing tickets into the system, creating tickets in the SharePoint space, in the SharePoint list, there's various ways that that can happen, and we've provided a few different ones here. So one way that we can interact with our end users and have them interact with their tickets is through a portal interface, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now. So this IT Help Desk portal is a SharePoint page that your end users will have access to. They'll have access to this. They won't have access to where the tickets actually live. They'll have this piece that they're working through. And there, you can see there's a couple elements on here that we've shipped out of the box for making it easy to submit a ticket through a quick ticket. There's a submit new ticket link right at the top. From here, they can view tickets. And there's a few other pieces that they can dig into. There's a knowledge base link, which I said we'll dig into in a little bit later workshop. And essentially, this is one element and one way that they can come in and create their ticket in the system. So pretty straightforward. What they can do is one of two things. They can hit the submit new ticket link, which is going to bring up our ticket form. So this is developed in our Nitro Forms tool. We can have a lot of flexibility how this is shown on a customer by customer basis. So if you have our product or are interested in looking at our product, understand that this can be changed, this can be modified, this can capture the information you need it to capture. And we've taken this help desk template essentially and developed other tools like a request manager, a purchase request system, kind of the same idea, underlying concept. Someone has a request, it goes through, then they have a form that they're presented to intake the information as much or as little as is needed to process the information. So this ticket can be filled out by the user. We have some elements in here where we're getting that user's information, whoever's logged in. You can see this data from the email and phone and department is coming from our Active Directory. So we have a connection over to Active Directory. That's one of the huge benefits of using a help desk system in SharePoint, is that you have that native connection to Active Directory, whether it's Azure AD in 365 or your AD on premises. We're going to be able to pull in some information about your user depending on what is there in AD. So they don't have to fill it out. They don't have to, worry about fat fingering their email address or mistyping their phone number. That information, if it's correct in Active Directory, it'll come through and be correct in here. So it gives you that assurance of that data being correct about who is logging the ticket. Now, through this interface, we also give them space to maybe enter some short details about their ticket. They can set a priority, which a lot of times our customers will choose to remove that from the form, just because for an end user, every ticket's going to be high priority. It's high priority for them, doesn't mean it's high priority for you. But we do have a way to set the priority either through the form interface here or through the back end. And then you have a category and issue type, which is a way to categorize the ticket. We'll talk about how that is used further down the line with auto processing, auto assignment of the ticket. That's going to come in the next webinar next week. And we'll talk about what that means for automatically assigning the ticket to a user, and how that can help manage where the tickets are going and what the queues look like for each of your teams or each of your IT help desk staff. So it can help control the workload. And then finally, they can enter a ticket description. So it gives them a way to flesh out the details, add screenshots, upload pictures into that ticket. So that comes through and goes into that record of that ticket. And so when you go and look at that on the back end, you'll see what the user has entered here, give you some clue to what they are looking for. And of course, throughout the system, there's ways to communicate with the end user for getting more information. And I'll talk about those in the next week's webinar with the ticket processing piece. But this is, initial intake form, really simple, really straightforward, not too much detail in here. But again, you can add more information, add more detail here if you would like. So it's really up to you how much or how little you want to put in here. And then if you wanted to give them a way to quickly create certain types of tickets or even certain types of requests, you have this quick tickets area here where that's going to pop open the form, similar form, same form that we just saw before, but it can pre-populate some information here. You'll see that category now is pre-populated, whereas before it was not, and it had to have a selection. And then another element here I would like to point out is that these are cascading fields. So if you have a category of hardware requests, you're going to have a different set of issue type options than if you selected a category of email, perhaps. And you're going to see that those options differ. And that is another way we help control how the tickets are categorized, how they're assigned, how they're queued in the background. So you can present that to your end user. Again, we've had some customers who decided not to do that and wanted to categorize it on the back end, and that's fine too. So that's again the beauty of the flexibility of the system. You can give them as much or as little up front, and then you and your technicians can take it from there and manage what that ticket actually has on it for data. But the really important thing is that we're intaking the information. So that's one way to do it. And one thing I forgot to point out, and I apologize, is that there is a questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. So if you at any point in time have a question about anything we're covering, anything you want to ask in more detail, feel free to pop into that questions box. I have it up on my other monitor. I can see when you've asked a question, and I will be happy to answer it in the course of the webinar if we have time. And certainly if we don't have time, we'll get to you afterwards. So no problem on that. So again, this is the portal interface. There's a few other elements here we can dig into where the user can see tickets that they've submitted into the system. So they'll go through and see, okay, what have I submitted? What's open, what's closed? Here's all my tickets. So we don't have anything in the system yet, but this is where they would see that information. Now, the portals piece of it is good for your users who are in the Active Directory. Like I mentioned, you have that connection to Active Directory. So what about the cases where your users aren't in Active Directory? What about external customers? What about other users? Well, there's a couple ways you can manage that. So if you have your external users, if they can access your 365 account or your SharePoint account on premises, is a little bit easier because you're not paying those per license fees like you are for Office 365. If you have them with their own accounts, their own logins, you can certainly provide the same interface, the same portal to them and enter into the system their tickets. And same idea, they're going to be able to see it. They'll see all the same stuff. But that's great if they can get into the system. Let's say they can't for whatever reason. You don't have a way to do that. Security purposes, you block them out. Various reasons you might not be able to have users log into your system directly. And the way we can get around that is we have what we call this email and text sync tool. And this is yet another way tickets can come into your system, and you can create a synchronization with a mailbox on your exchange that will allow for the system to pick up tickets that are sent to that email. And you'll notice here we also have a texting option. I'm not sure how many people use that, but we did put it in here, so it is an option for people to use for texting in the ticket if they really wanted to. If you want to create that synchronization between a text phone number, Twilio phone number, and our help desk tool. So with the email sync, it's really just about identifying the mailbox you want to use. We're adding in features. We just released a feature recently where you can actually target a particular folder in a mailbox. So previously you'd have any ticket or any email hitting a particular mailbox would be converted into a ticket automatically. But we've since changed that around, and now you have an option to target a folder within that mailbox, and that way you can use your rules in Outlook to send the email to a particular folder. That folder, then we recognize that an email hit that folder, and we pull it into the ticketing system, and to be able to process it from there. So with that, you're going to have, it's a little more like just real straightforward. It's the ticket comes in, you get the title of the ticket, you get some information, and then usually you have to categorize it on the back end, but it still gives you a quick, easy way to get that information into your ticketing system so that you can see what is, you can have that connection with your end users. We'll just take a quick walkthrough of the email to list item setting, the email sync tool. You'll see that we're just mapping some information over from our mailbox to to our tool. The way this works is we have an email tickets list that is separate from our main tickets list. So that way it gives a separation between the emails coming in and the actual ticket that you're working. Part of the reason for that too is that you're going to have a way to capture an ongoing communication with the end user. So when the ticket comes in, whether it's through the portal, through email, however, let's say you want to communicate back to that end user, there's going to be an email option from within the system here, and I'll show you that next week. But you can send an email to the end user. That email gets recorded as part of the ticket, and then that can be referenced for audit purposes later on. And then vice versa, any other future emails related to that ticket coming into the system will also be recorded. So you have that audit trail. So kind of gives you that little bit of, I know a lot of help desk teams use Outlook or to manage their processing, and that can get really difficult to track, who's picked up what, who's working on this, that, or the other thing. This is kind of a good way to bridge that gap between fully portal based and no email kind of system, which I don't think we'll, frankly, I don't know if we'll ever get to. People love email. It's a workhorse, and I don't know if it's ever going to really go away, but that's the dream, I suppose. But this gives you a way to maintain that connection with the email. And so even if you have a process where you're mostly using emails to communicate and manage your help desk, this gives you a way to kind of keep that in place without creating that much of a disruption for your users. So even if you can get them into the system and using a portal like this, you may have maybe a segment of users, or maybe all your users are really more prone to using email, and this gives that possibility to retain that functionality. Maybe a transition period, maybe maybe just want to keep using email altogether. That's fine. We have a way to make that connection, keep that connection, but the real benefit is that now those emails that are coming in are not just on a conversation in Outlook or lost to the ether of hundreds of emails coming in a day. They're going to be tied to a ticket. They're going to be accessible. They're going to be visible from your system, from your ticket, so you can go in and see what it's all about and what was going on in the ticket, who responded, and all that. So again, it's great for several scenarios, like I mentioned, for the end users who don't want to use the portal, end users who can't use the portal, whether they're external to your system or not. It just gives you another way to get that into the ticketing tool. And you see we're just making a connection to a mailbox, and then you can see there's a folder option where you can actually select another folder to reference in that mailbox rather than the main inbox. There's also filtering, which is another great thing about it. So if you have a mailbox that's receiving emails from like a all staff kind of notification, and you don't want to get those emails converted into tickets, there's ways you can filter those out. Or maybe you just happen to get junk mail, or I don't know, whatever the case may be. You can allow or disallow certain domains, certain subject lines, certain from addresses. So it gives you a way to control what is coming into your system. So it's not just a mailbox out there converting everything that hits it into a ticket, or attaching everything. It can be controlled. There's some governance around it, and what is actually converted and what is actually brought into the tool and connected over to the ticketing system. So that gives you another nice way to get the data in the system and get your users information there, so you can then process it. I will actually, I realize I haven't shown you the back end. Let me just show you real quick what that looks like, where these tickets end up, whether it's through email, whether it's through the portal. They come back in here. We'll walk through this in a lot more detail when we go through our workshop or webinar next week to talk about ticket processing, but just kind of give you a sense of what it looks like when the ticket is submitted through the portal. When it comes in through the email or text sync, you have it plops in here. And so this is a demo site created not too long ago, so there's nothing in here, but you'll see that any open tickets will be there. If they get automatically assigned, you'll see that as well. There's a assigned tickets view, different views of that tickets list of when they come in. You'll see different views of that. So you can see unassigned tickets, tickets assigned to yourself, things like that. So all those views are there. So that's a lot of how we're controlling who can see what in the help desk, and so you can kind of target what you need to work on from a processing perspective. But like I said, we'll talk more about that next week. I want to point out one other option for you for submitting tickets into the system if you're using 365 in Microsoft Teams. We have this Nitro bot, which gives you another option for your end users. So again, this is for end users who are going to be in your system already. They're going to have a Teams account. I guess it could be external if they can access your Teams, but there's just another option for getting into the system, maybe a little slicker, because it's actually a really nice way to present some other options for your end users. Like you can see over here on the portal, there's a submit new ticket link. There's also a knowledge base link, but they might not search the knowledge base first, right? So they may come in here and say, why click that when I can just go directly to submit a ticket? You can see they can search the knowledge base and see a whole bunch of information here. With the bot, they can actually, I set this up just to make sure it was working, but if I go to commands, it's going to bring me back to kind of like square one. Let's see if it does that. Oh yeah, it does. Okay. Another thing you can do is, so if you just start typing in some text, like my printer is not working, it's going to, there we go. It's going to actually search the knowledge base automatically. It may do that here. Oh, okay, it's not going to do that here, but let's see, exit. Anyway, it can. So essentially the user can come into the Nitro bot and they can, type in a command like this, my printer is not working. And why that doesn't automatically go through, hang on. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's going to go and automatically search the knowledge base and bring back knowledge base articles for the user. I guess it didn't in this case, I'm not sure why. I'll have to check the settings there, but it can be set up to do that, where it instead of just directly creating the ticket or having the user go to that space, they would be able to see articles that you presented that you put into the system to self-serve. So they could come in, type their issue, get a list of articles, kind of like a search, like a Google search or a Bing search, or who uses Bing, but like a Google search or something like that, where they can find searching your catalog for an answer. And they can do that through here, through the bot. They can do that through the knowledge base link over here. So either way, you're going to give them a space to self-serve and get more information that you've presented, that you provided, and have in here for them to reference. But ultimately, if they don't get the answer through the knowledge base, if they decide, that's not quite what I want, they can come in and, it's a demo site again. So there's a lot of extra stuff in here that you probably won't see if in the real world when you use this, but there's a command, submit an IT ticket, gives them a ticket interface like this, ticket via bot, sending in this ticket via the bot. So we call it bot. It's also a Teams app. It could be either referenced as either one. Again, you have control over the fields on here. So you can add the category field, you can put the priority field on here or remove it if you want. Again, there's a lot of flexibility in what you're presenting to the end users as far as what they need to fill out. So if you want more information in here, you can certainly add it. If you want less, you can certainly take it away. It's again, flexible, up to you. And we'll submit that through. All right, and just give it a minute to process. And you can see it's given the, so now it sends a card back, says who was logged in to do it. That's the login of this account, the email address of this account. It's got some information about the ticket that was created. And then they can also go to the browser to see if they wanted to do that. That's going to bring them over to that particular site over here. A little different than the site we were using. There's going to be more data here, but gives them direct link to that, and that can be, that would kind of be more the backend ticket, but they would get the portal ticket link. Yeah, so then there's other commands in here as well, which we'll go through again on a later session, on a later discussion about what you can do with the Teams app, with the Nitro bot. There's a lot in here that makes it easier for users to manage, to work with the system, to manage their tickets, to see what answers to the questions might be out there already before they come in and submit a ticket. They could get ticket statuses, things like that. So that can all be done through the Teams app interface here. And so that is available for them if they need it and want it. So, okay, so those are kind of the three main ways that people would be submitting into the system. There's, other outside of these three, outside of the submit, the submit new ticket on the portal, the email sync, the Nitro bot, there could be other options you might want to explore. There could be options for a web form that submits into the system that can be done via email as well. We've seen that where we have users who have customers that have a web form outside of SharePoint, and anyone who they give access to that form can fill it out. That creates an email, which then leverages this email and text sync capability to create a ticket in the system. There's also some parsing capabilities in here as well, where you can parse the ticket that comes in, or the email that comes in, and map those fields to a ticket, such as category and issue type. There's other things in here too, where we can get into in a little more detail, where you can, you can actually have the certain lists that are getting emailed to create the tickets in different ways, or have this kind of email handling utility, which a little daunting to look at first, but that we have some documentation on it. And essentially what you can do is map your tickets coming from, that could be coming from a particular email address, and that creates a ticket of a certain category, or it's going to a particular email tickets list and it's going to create a ticket of a particular category and or issue type. Things of that nature are all possible, all feasible. We're here to discuss these things in more detail. If you want to get a one-on-one kind of demo, we're always open to having that conversation with you and going through specific features in greater detail, talk about these different ways that we can do these things, get the email in, get the ticket into the system. And then we'll also, of course, on the demo, we'll talk a lot more about the processing and all the other things. But we're going to touch on that stuff again in future workshops, where we go through the processing piece of it, what happens when it comes in, who gets notified, how do they get notified, how do we manage those notifications. We're going to talk about all that, and we'll talk about that next week, and we can also touch on it as we go. And certainly, if you're here with us for the series, you can always ask a question about this particular session or any other session at any time. Like I said, we have that questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. We're happy to hear from you, happy to have any comments or questions or concerns that you want to put in there. We'll address them and get them answered. Yeah, so just want to give you a quick overview. We're about 5 minutes left, but if you have any questions or anything you want to know about in more detail, we're happy to do that. I'll just leave it open for a couple minutes just to see if anyone has any questions to pop in. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it, and look forward to having a conversation with you down the road. Thanks again. Okay, we do have some questions coming in. All right, so the question is there additional Office 365 licensing needed for this system? That's a great question about licensing, and that is not needed for this. So we're leveraging what you've already invested in 365, and you do not, other than the license for our product, you don't need to purchase any additional 365 licenses from Microsoft. I believe that's what the question is, the nature of that question. So other than the cost of our product and the cost of of that, you're not going to have anything beyond what you've already invested in your 365 cost, license cost. So you're not going to have anything additional, especially in the on-premises world. The same answer. You're not going to have any additional costs to your SharePoint infrastructure costs. It's going to be just what it is for our system to get in there and get up and running. That's your cost, and that's it. Good question. All right, very good. If you have anything pops to mind that you don't get a chance to answer right now, to ask right now, I should say, feel free to email, send us a note, sales@crocan.com. Again, always happy to have a chat with you. Appreciate everyone's time today. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.